and it fucking killed them. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck off. Signs is amazing.
I love Signs.
Signs is
I was
great.
not saying...
Not you. Anybody who's ever talked shit about Signs. All right. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I am well. Thank you.
Let's get your intro.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Jony Horror Podcast. I'm Johnny Maresca, and with me is my good friend, Abigail Bowen.
Yes.
Welcome back, my love.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Yeah, how are things?
You know, things are good. I'm actually just waiting for spooky season, because that's what my life revolves around.
How about this thing that I feel like really... I just noticed it prominently this year is the halfway to Halloween.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure it has happened in years prior, but this year I saw it everywhere. Everything was halfway to Halloween.
I think it's because we got robbed of how we would usually celebrate Halloween for the last 2 or 3 years for, reasons we all know about. So I think it was kind of... things we're missing out on. Just gotta...
Is it, just... horror is probably more popular right now than it has ever been before.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So do you think it's a way to cash in on that? Because a lot of the things that I was seeing were not, on Instagram were it was not only, just like normal people accounts, but it was a lot of industry stuff. Like Shudder was doing it, and a couple of different clothing lines were doing it. So it's like this opportunity to be like, hey, let's spend money.
Yeah, let's remind you that this is the best holiday of the year all year round.
And I mean, that's one of those things where all those companies that I throw money at on a regular basis. I can't be that mad at them because at least they give us a 15% off that day, sort of a deal.
Well, you went to, what was the haunted house that you and Celeste went to?
Oh, we did Reign of Terror.
Oh my god, I was so jealous, so freaking jealous.
Yeah, that was cool that popped up too. That because they have the Halloween one, and then they actually have a Christmas one that they do too, that Celeste went to, but I have not had the opportunity to see that one yet. But it's more or less the same haunt, but they kind of change stuff here and there.
Okay.
So, but man,
when you say
cool.
the same haunt, it's essentially the same thing each year, or?
Well, it's
I have not been.
It's an established thing. It's built in. It's not something say Halloween Horror Nights or a Not Scary Farm where they take it apart
and then
rebuild it. It's there.
Okay.
Okay. So they update it. They add stuff to it. Take stuff away here and there, but more or less it is the same thing. But I mean, it's still pretty fucking cool. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're halfway to Halloween, and last time you were here, it was Halloween season. It was
2 weeks away, I think.
Yeah, we were in the home stretch, and I mean, it was that was the first podcast we ever did. So
I know.
That was pretty fucking cool.
I still feel very honored.
Hell yeah! I mean, we were honored to have you.
I got very drunk by the end of it, so
anyone
who listened to the whole thing, thank you for sticking.
I was thinking that every other one that I've done since then, I was like, all right, just don't get as drunk as you did on the first one.
I feel like I need to redeem myself because of that.
we I just remember by the end it was
it was silly.
We had a lot to drink.
Yeah, we had a lot to drink and it was just silly.
I mean, it was great. I had a good time.
Yeah,
it was a fantastic time. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat, which is why we're here.
Yeah, there we go. Bring things full circle.
But yeah, how was last Halloween season for you? Because last Halloween season for me was honestly probably one of the best ones I have had in recent memory. So,
okay, can you tell me why?
we just did so much stuff. We went to more haunts than we had ever done before. We were just busy. We were in a new house and like a new neighborhood. We were able to
decorate totally differently.
Yeah, our kid was just old enough that to do a little bit of trick or treating, and we had like a good neighborhood for trick or treating. So that was a fun like first experience. We did our typical Halloween Horror Nights, which is like our big like Halloween celebration thing. But then kind of like last minute, like, well, we did one that was a local one too. We did the Reign of Terror one. That we actually did that after Halloween, but we did one in Ventura that was like the
Celeste
seaside one.
did not like that one.
Yeah, it
because
was.
I asked.
It was okay.
Like, hey,
it was whatever. Yeah. But it was still kind of fun, and the weather, it was like windy and like cold
right on the
and
beach. Like,
but
also gives to like
it and I mean it was not anything fantastic, but it was the first thing we did of the season, so it was kind of fun in that regard, like a little warm up round, if you will. But we tacked on last minute. We did Not Scary Farm, which was hands down probably
the biggest fan.
Really?
It was a long time ago. I was probably like yay high. Like I was 13, 14, and my older brothers really enjoyed it. I was still at the point that I'm like, oh my god, like anything scares me. And then I'm with my mom who's freaking out, and I'm like, wait, you're supposed to be my mom. Like
you're supposed to protect me.
Yeah, but I'm almost protecting you, and you're screaming. So yeah, I have not been. So.
There was like at least twice as many mazes.
Shut up.
They are at least 3 times as long and like 10 times as cool. Like they are. It is fun, man.
Okay.
Like we within the first like 15 to 20 minutes of being there, we're like, why have we not been doing this?
No way.
Yeah. So it's become like it's going to become a thing. Like, even when we were, like, leaving, Celeste was like, well, maybe we do this instead of Universal Studios. I was like, no. I was like, we do both. I was like, this is what we do. This is our thing. This is, like, how we enjoy our life. And I was like, if we got to throw down a couple extra bucks to be able to do both, like, hell yeah, because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me about your Halloween season last year.
Okay, so definitely the highlight for me was, as I was telling you earlier, I have introduced, horror to a lot of my close family and made them realize that, like, there's different variations of it. It's not just slashers. It's not just ghost movie. It's like all that stuff. So my brother and I always go to Halloween Horror Nights.
Yes.
Because he's the one I can count on to go have fun, and like he's into that too. So we brought his girlfriend, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if she's gonna like it. Like, who knows? And the first maze that we went through was, oh my god, it's leaving my mind now. Was Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
She loved it, and she came out and she was like, oh my god, I'm so excited, like, and she had a freaking ball. And honestly, like, her excitement to like have her included with us in that, and her to just be like, this is so cool, I want to come every year. Like, we didn't get to do everything because we got there late, whatever, who cares. But I was like, okay, you are officially grandmothered in to coming in with us, because
part of the crew.
Yeah, it was really fun. So that was the biggest thing for me, just like seeing her excitement and her being like, this is awesome. And I'm like, I told you, I just didn't know how to like.
It is a hard sell for a lot of people because like, and it's so weird because almost always just, it doesn't really click in my brain that, with the exception of you, like, I don't really have many, like, close, like, legit friends that I see, that I know
Same.
personally, that are actually fans of horror.
Yeah.
Like, legit fans of horror.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of, like, seen this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
But everyone's always like, oh, you like
they
that?
can relate to it somehow, but it's always like...
Yeah, and I mean, like, even talking to, you know, some of my really, really good friends and trying to explain to them, I'm like, yeah, no, I've been on an 80s kick lately, and they're like, huh? Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to watch anything but, like, 80s trash horror movies. Like, that's just been, like, my kick, and they're like, what do you mean, you don't want to watch, like, the new, like, Marvel show? And I'm like, I couldn't care less.
Someone actually asked me about Marvel today, and they're like, oh, we're gonna go see the new, I think it's Doctor Strange. And I was like, no, because I have to catch up, because I have not watched a Marvel movie since, like, the other Doctor Strange. That was, like, what, 8 years ago? 6 years ago?
Somewhere along those lines.
And then I know there's a movie where a bunch of people freaking died, and WandaVision ruined that for me, so I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing... They're like, what? So you must be a Trekkie. And I'm like, wait, how did you go from...
Yeah, how do you get that? That doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
So then they were like, oh, I meant DC, and I was like, okay, that makes a little more sense to me, because it's comics, but then I was just like...
Well... a lot of people have asked me, they're like, are you a Marvel fan? And I'm like, yeah, I tapped out after Endgame, basically, which was like the culmination of all the movies, and that's, you know, where...
when they all died, Steve?
They die one movie before that,
okay.
And Endgame is, you know, kind of the climactic battle.
Yeah.
And I've watched a couple of the movies since then, but nothing has been quite... So, I mean, the newest Spider-Man movie was pretty fantastic, and I did not watch. I had a blast. But
going back to horror, because that's what we're here for. Yes. Because I see you going down like a Marvel.
No. I mean, you know, this is all kind of like bringing it back to like the you know, the Doctor Strange thing, where like it is the first Marvel movie to have like horror elements, and everyone's like, oh dude, like it gets so dark, like you're gonna love it. And I'm like, I probably will like it, like I have no doubt. But I've had a number of people be like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like it's your favorite Marvel movie because it... And I'm like, well, guys, I was like, you have no idea who the director is, but I know who the director is, and he directed some of the best horror movies of all time, some of my favorite movies. So, like...
It's Roth, right?
No, it's Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi.
Okay,
Evil Dead.
Okay. Evil Dead.
I'm like, of course I'm gonna like it, and I will see it, but, like, I just love... Like, that's people's, like... bar, your average person's bar for, you know, horror movies and what's dark and what's scary and what's morbid. And I'm like, I don't know, go watch The fucking Mist and tell me what a dark, bleak fucking movie is after that. I'm sorry, my bar is set very, very high for what a fucked up movie is.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is.
Oh my god,
fun.
I'm just like envisioning the ending of The Mist, and I
don't know if I can go back to it now that I have a son. Like, I've thought about it. I've wanted to watch it a couple of times. I'm like, I don't think I could do the ending anymore.
I mean, I don't have any kids, and I'm still just like, oh my god, it tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
Like, but also just
Yeah.
No spoilers here.
feel like we're really pushing it on that. Like, you should be able to put two and two together, but yeah, it's just interesting that on your average day, like, I'm this very, you know, certain person out in the world. I mean, I rep my colors, you know. I always wear something, you know, horror related. But like when I go to work and this, that, or the other, who I am, just kind of like in society, like the front is you wouldn't know, you know, and that's just mostly because I don't have people to geek out about it with. So it is fun to be able to find someone and introduce them and get them a little bit excited about what you're excited about. So on that note, what, as a fan and as someone who I would say you are probably like my biggest success in that regard, as far as like, you know, you know, being able to turn you on and really like, you know, nurture what was already there. You know, I can't say I, you know, made you a horror fan, but you know,
no, you just made me comfortable to be like, this is what I like, and and it's been awesome because like seeing like your house like during Halloween season and stuff like that is fucking phenomenal. So fun.
How do you feel about the state of horror right now in the world? Are you excited about all the content that we have? Because there's a lot of content. There's a ton, like more so than there was even like 10 years ago. Do you feel a disconnect with some of the material that is being put out? Because they're like a lot of the main stuff, I feel like you do have to kind of go off the beaten path. But then personally for me, when I go off the beaten path, it's never like big enough or hits hard enough with some of the like indie films and stuff like that. So I personally myself feel like I'm, you know, without delving into it too much right out the gate, am kind of like in a limbo with a lot of the films we have that are coming out right now. What about you? How do you feel about stuff?
So I cannot comment on like films coming out right now per se, because I mean, you, Celeste, and I were talking about that earlier. I have not been to the movies as often as I would like to. But I do know that a lot of it is trying to incorporate what we as a society went through for the last like 2 or 3 years. There's also like, it's shifted from, there were rebuffs of like the 70s and the 80s. Now it's shifted to like the early 2000s, late 1990s. So for me, I'm like, no, you can't remake that yet. Or I don't know.
Well, how do you feel about the requel, as it were, the Halloween and the Scream and, you know, just the legacy sequel, if you will, like taking established IP, shoehorning in the characters we love, and then trying to tack it on to a new set of characters and see where they take it. I mean, Star Wars did this, and in my opinion, did it very, very unsuccessfully.
I would agree.
Halloween, we can just probably dive into Halloween Kills right now, because this is kind of where it's all going to lead anyways. Now, we talked a little bit, I know we talked at length, actually, about Halloween 2018 in the last podcast that you and I did, but just for myself and anyone who might be listening, just give me a quick recap on your thoughts and feelings about that film before we jump into Halloween Kills.
I mean, I still liked it because, I mean, I didn't love it. I liked it. There was still enough of the original storyline that was coming through, but there was that disconnect from the core of these movies to now how it is. But my opinion changed with Halloween Kills. Like, I don't know if it's just because I hadn't had that cinematic. Oh, also, it was one of the first movies for me to watch in a theater.
Oh, you saw it in theater.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, we watched it. We watched it here. We watched it on Peacock.
So, I mean, amazing regardless. But I was like, I think my opinion is a little more influenced because I was like, oh, it's on the big screen and it's been forever since. Yeah. So.
I mean, I will say that the first time I watched Halloween Kills, I was fangirling the fuck out.
Yes,
I was having
thank you.
so much fun and
yeah.
losing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I still had my gripes with it, but it was after it sat with me, and then I did a rewatch.
Yeah.
And that was when I really and again, anything that I would watch on the internet and be like, yeah, okay, that was a gripe that I was thinking about, but I really didn't see it until.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to nitpick. I'm just enjoying. That was me.
That was me. Absolutely. On the first watch, that's what I did. When I've talked about this with a couple of people, my original ranking when I did my review is very, very high compared to what I would give it now.
Yes.
I think it's a fun movie, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, and it kind of is just like a what the fuck sort of a deal.
It was all over the place.
Yes.
Which I can understand that, but I loved seeing new age actors coming in and playing roles in such a story that we have all been watching for so long.
Yeah.
So that was my whole part.
I mean, Michael Myers is cool. His viciousness is cool. I like the 19...
And I'm still just oh my god, I want to see your fucking face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just say something.
Or just,
I mean, that's actually one of the things that I like. I really like, and I mean, I love Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I fucking love it. I think it's ranked so low for most people, and I cannot wrap my head around it because it's original, it's different, it's brutal as fuck, and it's dark, man. It is a cool fucking Halloween movie, and I cannot get why so many people have it rated so low, because it's so much better than at least half of the franchise movies that do all the same things all the time.
Could not agree more.
And I love at least in, because I think I only ever watched the director's cut of that. I think I've seen the theatrical cut one time, but every Halloween that every Devil's Night, that is my tradition, is carve pumpkins and watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 back to back.
Yeah.
And so I always watch the director's cut, and in the director's cut, at least, he at the very end pulls off his mask and just tells Loomis to die right before he stabs him. And I love that. God, it's so different. It's so original and fresh and ahead of its time,
but still with the same storyline.
Yeah.
And all
Yeah, and I don't know, they're beating around the bush so much. Halloween Kills just definitely feels like this bridge movie to Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
There is some really fucking cool stuff in there. The 1978 footage, I don't think it necessarily does much to advance the story, but it looks good.
And it connects it. And that's what I liked. That's what I liked, being okay, there's this direct connection from the original to this, now remake or revamp or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is good for what she's in it. She's just not in it nearly enough.
No.
And there's just a lot of dumb characters doing dumb things that,
that is the franchise.
Yes, I can get behind that to a point. I was watching the Slumber Party Massacre this morning, and
oh yeah,
in it, like at the very end, the guy, like, she stabs a guy, he falls into the pool, and then she drops the machete, and I'm like, you stupid, what are you doing? And then I'm like, no, pump the brakes, this is the 80s.
Yep.
At the time, this was not fucking cliche, you know. So you know, I have to, like, you know, give grace where grace is due. But of course, the motherfucker gets out of the pool. But you know, there's stuff now where I'm like, where, you know, the Big John and Little John, they're like, yeah, there's someone in our house, and they don't just leave the house.
Yeah.
They walk around with a fucking little, like, charcuterie board knife. And
a small shank.
And, you know, like it's gonna do something, and instead of, like, any normal person who, like, legit thought there was someone in their house, if you have a gun, yes, but, like, just leave the house. Yeah, call the police. You don't know where anybody is. What is the... It's not like a fortress that they're going to conquer and they're going to have a moat with gators so you can't get back into the house. Leave the house. Call the police. The police will get the fucker out, and then you get your home back. You're not defending anything. Just walk outside the 4 fucking walls, you assholes. Shit like that, where I'm like, yeah, you can try and make your story, like, happen a certain way, but at a point, it just becomes bad writing. Like, get creative. Mm-hmm. Think outside of the box. You know, there are different and fun and smart ways to execute a scene without falling into old tropes.
Yes.
And
I agree.
And they, you know, they did some of that. There are cool scenes, there are cool beats. But a lot of it, I was just like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, what is this movie that you're pushing on us? You know, I just, Evil Dies Tonight is such, like, now it's a fucking meme. You know, it's something silly, and anytime anybody's like, Michael, like, haunted this city for 40 years, and I'm like, dude. The city I live in, I guarantee you some motherfucker killed 3 people one night and then went to jail. Yeah. And I know nothing about it, and no one gives a shit. It happened 40 years ago. No one gives a fuck. Yeah. So this idea that, and this is what, like, scrapping all the sequels, how it hinders these movies is because that is literally all Michael did in the first movie. He killed, like, 3 people. 3 or 4 people or something like that, and then that was it. If you tack on Halloween 2, he killed, like, fucking 20 people in one night. And that has a hell of a lot more of an impact than, like, 3 people. I can see a town being haunted by that. But if you, like, scrap that and he just kills X amount of people and then he goes away for 40 years, no one knows, no one gives a shit, like, and it doesn't, you don't get that same payoff.
So what I think they were trying to do in this is they thought all the viewers would, you know, have gone through the 20 people being killed, like, all that. And the scariest thing for me was that, like, literally, he's been burned alive, shot, like, and he just keeps going. And he is supposed to be human. There's nowhere that it says, like, he's superhuman. And it's just like, you literally cannot kill him. So that is what I loved about this. Because, you know, he's obviously beefed up because this is the 20-whatever version of it. And he was just like, instead of being like a guy just in a mask, like moving very fucking slow, but somehow could always catch up with someone running forever, just somehow knew how to make calculated moves to know where his victim was, and he would still show up, regardless of being shot, stabbed, electrocuted, whatever it was. And so that's the creepiness of that, because he's supposed to be this human character that is unhuman.
Well, the idea that, what John Carpenter said is that he is the embodiment of evil, and you can't kill evil.
Exactly.
Now,
but there's no supernatural
they
element to
say
it.
that, but, and if they had leaned, like, in Halloween 2018, the fact that I have to fucking say this is ridiculous, that I have to clarify. This goes to, like, my thing with the fucking requels, where, like, come up with a better name. Like, they did the same thing with Scream. Scream, I almost give a pass because it's like a meta thing that they're doing with it. But, like, they did it with the new... Did you watch the new Texas Chainsaw movie on Netflix?
Oh, yeah.
It was on Netflix, Abby!
I know, but that's why I'm, like, apprehensive, because I'm like, can Netflix
You can watch it for free, is all I'm saying. Is it a good movie? No.
Exactly.
But you still get to watch Leatherface kill people for free. The last movie I had to pay money for, and I regretted it. But the thing that they
don't want to be disappointed.
This is what I'm going to with the state of horror. Yeah. Is that there's a lot of disappointment. But this idea that, like, in Halloween 2018, they say that, yeah, he's just a man, he's just human. And then in the sequel, they proceed to show all the different ways that he cannot be killed. He gets a fucking gun, like, shot at him point blank at least 3 different times in one scene. Gets beat over the head. All of this where the crowd is, like, attacking him. And he still gets up and murders them all.
When he jumps out the 3rd-story window or whatever?
Yeah, I'm just like, you guys are going against your own fucking rules you established. Like, make up your mind one way or another. Is he human or is he superhuman?
Superhuman. Yep.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
I am probably, with the exception of Halloween Resurrection, which can go fucking die in a hole. I'm pretty
Who's even seen that?
Probably too many people, unfortunately.
Yep.
With the exception of that, like, I am insanely forgiving of the Halloween franchise. It is my favorite horror franchise, without a doubt. Like,
really?
I love, like, even the ones that are lesser, I still, like, again, fucking Resurrection excluded. I fucking hate that movie. It is hot garbage. But it is just, I hold every other movie in that franchise. Like, I could watch it and have fun with any one of those movies any day of the week. I'm not saying overall it is the best horror franchise, because it is not. It has some major peaks and valleys, but it's just my personal favorite. Something about the way those movies make me feel, particularly during the Halloween season. If I watch them outside of the Halloween season, it's just not as much fun. There's not as much
Halloween
love.
Season year round?
There's a different vibe.
Yeah, no, I know.
Is there not?
I'm just calling you out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what the rest of the year is for, all the movies that I can't fit into Halloween season.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
But now back to how the state of horror, personally for me, is I do find myself consistently let down, and that's probably why I keep going back to movies of the past and really delving into the 80s and living that up.
Well, that's your favorite decade.
That's the
For-
70s. The 70s are still.
Oh shoot, your 70s, Celeste's 80s.
Yeah.
I feel like we went through this before.
We've done it before,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's all right. This is good. But no, this brings me to a movie that I feel like I am on I'm not with the majority with this, where I was really disappointed in this movie, and most people really like this movie, and that
What are you about to
was Scream.
Okay. I liked it because. Actually, you know what? I want to hear your opinion.
I've been
first.
doing a lot of talking, so I would.
You have been. Okay, so here's why I liked it. I went into it being like, Scream. Oh my god. It's supposed to be like slapstick. It's supposed to be stupid. Like, it's not supposed to be a, like, get you in your, no jump scares. No, everything is very predictable.
tongue in cheek, if you will.
Yes, tongue in cheek, if you will. And I just loved that the original cast came in, and it was as cheesy as it had been when they originally did it. I had appreciation for that. I was just like, okay, it's a freaking Scream movie. We know it's going to be like this. Like,
Well, my gripes with it are the problems that I have with it. I feel like, and I've listened to other people talk about this on other podcasts, and I'm like, I don't understand why you're not talking about the glaring issues with this, where a big thing with me as I was watching it was like, I was like, this seems like a retread of a lot of what we saw in Scream 4, where you get this new cast of characters, and they talk about this sort of like reboot or revamping of, and then there's this never-ending reference to the first movie, Billy and Stu, Billy and Stu, Billy and Stu, Billy and Stu. It's like on a fucking goddamn loop. And they never talk about any of the other killers. They never talk about Mrs. Loomis. They never talk about Mickey. They never talk about Roman. And Scream 3 is not a good movie. I will say that. It is not a good movie. But it did a lot of stuff different than every other movie in the franchise. So for that, it gets bonus points for being different. Now, is that different stuff good? No. But it was still tried something a little new. This movie, I feel like, falls into, again, all the same tropes. Let's go back to the same house. Let's talk about all the same stuff. Let's have even the killers in this one still felt like the killers in Scream 4. And I know a lot of people don't like Scream 4. I don't understand it. I fucking love Scream 4. I think it's so good. I think it's so smart. And there's a weird filter over the whole film. And it's got this weird glow to it. So I'll give you that. That's fucking weird. And some of the characters aren't particularly memorable. So yeah, you get that. But the twist at the end with Jill being the fucking killer is phenomenal. She's outside of her mind. Emma Roberts does so good in that. And I personally at the time did not see that shit coming. And the reason why this idea of trying to be trying to become like an internet sensation, which is honestly something that we are still living with today. I thought that was pretty good. Now, I will give you the trope of, toxic fandom being the core thing. That's good. It just maybe their approach, the way they did it, didn't quite sell it for me. Like
it didn't actually like come through as a
it was almost like it was them explaining it, but it didn't, like, I didn't feel like everything that had led up to that moment was because of that, if that makes sense. When they're talking about doing it and like why they are decided to kill everyone to make this new movie. So, and I was like, your logic here doesn't quite do it for me.
But also, I will say, being someone who's like viewing the movie as a new viewer, they're also trying to get people that...
Oh, yeah.
When did the first
96.
come out? 96. So I was 7 years old. So they're trying to appeal to like oh, this is the background of the story. So we get like some background or some whatever that like they can relate to.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, not 7-year-olds, but here's my thought. A lot of people have not watched Scream in how long? So there's new viewers coming in, so there has to be like some sort of a backstory.
You definitely have to be able to appeal to a newer audience. And again,
and I think that's why it's getting kind of.
But here's the thing, that I know that like a lot of fans, like a lot of horror fans,
yeah,
they loved this movie. And like loved it.
Well,
Thought it was great.
The meta part of it. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. Well, which meta? There's multiple meta parts.
Well, there's the one where she's just like eating popcorn and watching all of.
Yeah, even the part where Richie is he's got his box of pizza and he's going through like watching the movies on YouTube or whatever, and he's like, dude, I don't know, like this franchise goes off the rails at like da 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 da.
Oh my god! And for them to bring in even like the side, like yeah. Sorry, that for me was like whoa.
Now I will say that Jack Quaid, the guy who plays Richie, I thought he was phenomenal. I loved him in The Boys, and
yes.
I thought he did.
And I did not know. Oh, you know what? I'm joking. In the last like 20 minutes, I'm like, "Fuck you, dude! It's you."
Honestly, when I heard he was cast, it was just like, maybe. And then when I saw all the promotional, I was like, it's him. It has to be him. He has to be one of them.
I did not.
And I did not want him to be, because his character is so goddamn likable.
Yep.
Throughout the entire movie.
Yep.
He is so fun and so funny, and just like his reactions to everything are so genuine that when it did happen, I was like, fucking A, god damn it.
Why?
Like you were the best new character and now you have to die.
Now you're adult. Yeah.
Pretty much all the other characters, with the exception of Jenna Ortega, the little sister who gets attacked at the beginning.
I'm sorry, but she sold it for me.
She is a phenomenal actress.
Yes.
She did a great job
in You.
Yeah, I have not seen You. She's an X, which you haven't seen, and
I have not seen X yet.
She is again killing the game.
She is just phenomenal.
Yeah, she does a great job. So I really liked her. She's just a very, very believable actress.
Yes.
Where a lot of these other kids, not necessarily bad, but you can tell they're acting. Where like she is being. So but so I was really sad to just be right on that front, because Jack Quaid I just thought was so great. Without a doubt, my personal favorite part of the movie, besides Deputy Dewey, who that was one of the things that I also really liked. I was like, dude, if one of the legacy characters does not die in this movie, like, one of them should have died in 4. Like, that was like, when one of them didn't die in 4, I was like, guys, you're pulling your punches here. So I thought that scene was very, very good. And I thought he went out like a fucking champ.
As he should.
But it was immediately undercut by the reveal that Amber, a fucking 5 foot Nothing. Teenage girl took out a fully grown cop. And if you watch that fucking scene, it's a 6-foot man. That is a plot hole I cannot fucking forgive for the life of me. I'm sorry, you do not get a fucking pass for that. Now, if you come back in Scream 6 and say that it was Matthew Lillard back from the fucking dead as Stu that killed Dewey, then you get a fucking pass and everything's okay. But if you do not do that, fuck you. So, defend this shit.
No, I cannot. Yeah. So I get that. I do get that. But a point that I want to make, going back to, I'm sorry, you mentioned the actress who was in the opening scene.
Jenna Ortega.
Who's also in You. That's who I know from.
Yes.
I love that the original Scream, Drew Barrymore went in and said, plaster my face on every sort of publication for this. It's going to be me front and center and like everyone in the back. And she was the one who said, kill me off in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because then people are going to be like, what the fuck?
Yes.
So, coming to the new one, we just think, oh, cool, this great actress is just going to be killed off in the first fucking scene. But from her to go from the beginning to the end, I have to respect that.
That was one of those twists that
Because all the previews, sorry to interrupt you, but all the previews for the new one was literally just the scene of her being like, hi, and being,
Yeah, and that was good marketing on their part. I will give them that.
Okay.
Because that was something that, like, immediately in my brain, I was like, well, she probably wouldn't have survived those wounds, but I'm glad that they did something different.
Yeah.
That was something that I liked and thought was cool. Again, this is a movie that, like, I am torn. Where, like, I watch Halloween Kills and I'm like, this movie is fucking garbage. It's garbage and it's dumb and it has some terrible dialogue in it, but I have fun watching it.
Yeah.
Scream is one where I am so frustrated with my issues with it because I want to love it so bad. Like, I want to, like, even Scream 3, that I personally, like, this latest Scream is at the bottom for me. Yeah. The longer I've sat on it, I'm like, it's even Scream 3 I like better than it because Scream 3 is, again, it's feels different. And this movie feels like a retread of so many different themes and concepts that I've seen before in the Scream franchise that I just cannot forgive it for that.
But, oh God, I cannot remember. She's eating popcorn and watching the spin-off from the frickin' Scream series and making fun of it. I loved that.
The Stab movie, right?
Yes! She's literally, like, in a Scream movie making fun of the Stab when her friends are, like, dead in a closet. Like, that for me, I was like, okay, that did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I mean, then you have him coming up behind her. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one of my favorite things in that movie, and I thought it was it's just such a good scene, is what happens like a minute or two before, where Richie's talking to her and he's asking her about the beer and she's like, oh, it's in the basement. He's like, oh, you want to come with me, sort of a deal? And she's like, no,
she's like, no one
like,
goes in the basement with it.
Yeah, and then he's like, all right, I'll be right back. And then he stops himself and he goes, and she goes, and like that little dynamic, like things like I love that.
And then he ended up being
great.
The actual killer.
I
like,
just
those were things that I really fucking enjoyed.
Yeah, and again, like, I've watched this movie twice. I bought it. I
only
own
watched it once.
I'm not gonna hate a Scream movie. I do not hate it. It is a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
It's like a relationship that I have with my mother. Like, like, I love you, but why did you fuck me up? You know?
Okay, so you have some mommy issues.
Nah, I feel like most of us do, but that's not what this podcast is about. But this idea that, like, I thought that movie was so close to being like a fucking and it just wasn't quite there. And again, like, I feel better about overall what those guys did in that movie, even though I have so many problems with that movie, the choices that they made and the things that they were doing. I feel better about that than what I do with what they did with Halloween Kills.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know. Like horror movies right now, I don't know, man. I feel like we're in a weird time.
Like, yeah. A level of like, okay, so things are going to be remade or revamped or...
Well, it's all about IP. It's all about existing properties that can be retooled to make money. Mm-hmm. And if you're not that, then you're in the indie section, and you're only given X amount of money to be able to do whatever, and you usually can't have your full vision realized. And unfortunately, like, indie movies today, like low budget horror movies today, are just not as batshit crazy as low budget horror movies of like yesteryear, you know?
Well, you know, there's a lot more that is being regulated in a sense, where like before, like, you could do some gnarly shit on camera and you wouldn't get censored. Yeah. But now it's like, not to go down.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We have these streaming services that you can just, you don't have to have a rating, you know, you can put whatever the fuck you want on there, and I just feel like so
many. But are
many
they going to make money?
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, like, but I mean, like, if you're given like $1 million budget now versus $1 million budget fucking, I don't know. I just feel like, be smart about where you spend your money. You don't necessarily need X, Y, and Z to be able to make a good movie.
We're in a recession. We're like getting stimulus payments. Like, and that does affect everything. Like, you have to understand that does affect.
Well, you would understand this better than I would.
But also, like, production has been just halted.
Yeah.
Essentially, from everything. So it's not like people are getting back into being able to produce and do all that stuff, and there's still limitations and budget expenses and like all that stuff that, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I always think, I'm like watching stuff in, you know, the 80s where they're like, yeah, we had like a $2 million budget and we made this, you know.
But honey, that's the 80s. We're now in the 2020s.
God, that was like 40 years ago.
If you really think about it, that was like 40 years ago. Yeah. And they could, in Evil Dead, use, what was it, oatmeal or something to look like brains?
Yeah.
It was something like that. They would microwave some shit, and it looked like stuff exploding.
What was someone was, God, what were they talking about? Oh, it was, I was listening to a podcast from Halloweeny. Shout out to my favorite podcast right now. And they were talking about Wes Craven's A New Nightmare, and in one of the scenes, Heather Langenkamp had like vomit on her, and they used like clam chowder and like fucking oatmeal or something like that, and they like, no one wanted to be near her because the fucking clams went rotten and shit like that, and you just smell
Wait,
putrid.
is that worse than the pea soup in The Exorcist?
I would say yes, probably. But yeah, just the shit that like I'm like, dude, you could like make like some gelatin that smells great and you just throw like fucking like I don't know, like mint in there and make it look bad. Like have you ever seen mint when it goes rotten? It looks gross,
gross,
but you know
yeah,
it certainly
gross.
doesn't smell like fucking rotten clams.
But it smells.
It
kinda
does.
gross.
It doesn't smell great, but you know, I digress.
Yeah, how did we get there?
I feel like right now is probably a good time to take a break and make another cocktail. And we'll come back and we'll reassess.
Reassess. You took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, we'll be right back.
I should have picked up on that, but
So, moving on with the current state of horror, probably the next big one. Actually, this week we have a remake of Stephen King's Firestarter, which is going to be coming out on Peacock. I personally just watched the original Firestarter with baby Drew Barrymore.
I have not watched it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, I watched it. I think I watched it like last month, and it was just something that like I had wanted to watch, and then
you were like, "Whoa, cool!"
They were doing a remake starring the gorgeous Zac Efron.
Duh. But here's my hiccup: the one playing Drew Barrymore's
role. Yeah,
she was in, I think, American Horror Story last season.
The Vampas one, right?
Yes, and she was awful. Oh my god, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I just know from like catching some of it as Celeste was watching it. I did not watch it.
She is supposed to be this like really mature like little girl, and she did not sell it for me. So I do not.
We shall see. I will say that the thing that I'm most excited for actually is John Carpenter is actually doing the score.
Okay.
And I've heard a couple of those tracks already on Spotify.
And the music.
It's fucking bitching.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but with like what that movie is and how the original was, and I actually really, really liked the original when I watched it. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm curious to see what they're able to do with special effects these days and what that sort of will play out like. I don't exactly have like high hopes for it, but again it's going to be on Peacock and I get to watch it for free.
For free.
So I'm looking forward to that.
And Zac Efron. Oh my god, just what has he been doing?
I don't know. Probably steroids, most likely.
Right. I don't want to think that. But
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's putting in the work too, but you just don't look that good without them.
Go from a string bean to a.
But I mean, good for him. You know?
Yeah, good for him. Anywho,
he's doing it.
Moving on.
We have Jordan Peele's Nope at the end of July.
Yes.
Now, there's not a lot that is necessarily known about this movie, which is great because...
I mean, that's what he does with everything.
Yeah.
We didn't know what...
Yeah, Get Out, we
didn't know what Us was.
Yeah, I feel like we knew a little bit more about Us than we really knew about, like, Get Out.
True.
But in order to sell Us, you kind of have to give away a little bit of what that premise is. Now, before we dive into that, thoughts on Jordan Peele?
Adore him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and so, loved Get Out. My mom, actually, I've been getting her into horror lately, and she, when Us came out, I think we talked about this earlier, it was like 2018, 19?
I feel like it had to have been 2018.
It was something like that. And my mom actually invited me to go to the movies because she really wanted to see Us. And she was like, I know this is a horror movie, which I'm not really into, and I just want to take you, I want to see it. And we had such a good time because he is such a brilliant director, and he brings in like past and present and makes it all horror. It's a melding of so many good things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think everyone and their mother, just even if you don't necessarily like think Get Out is an amazing movie, I feel like you have to appreciate what it is as far as the genre is concerned. It definitely is like a point in history for a number of reasons as far as that movie is concerned, what it does for race and how it approaches that in a very, very different way than anything we've ever seen in film before.
Yeah.
This idea that this man who had essentially been known for nothing but comedic stuff turns in a psychological thriller that I feel like is not on necessarily the same level as something like The Shining, but is in the same playing field.
It is in that sense, but there's also like the social commentary on everything. I do love that he did the Twilight Zone revamp.
Yeah.
He was the host and like brought... I just think he's brilliant in that sense.
Yeah.
That, you know, there's a lot going on with race and racism and just not understanding each other.
Yeah.
At this point, and he was able to bring it to like a comedic, but also just like a point where it was relatable to anyone who could. Yeah. You know?
Well, I mean, the great thing about Get Out, I remember telling my wife this when we watched it, like after it was over, I was like, I was uncomfortable throughout that whole movie. I couldn't tell you why.
And that's how you're supposed to feel.
Yeah, it was just a very unnerving, and just very, I don't know, surreal experience. And it was such a cool, fun time at the movies. And then, you know, we have Us, which I think they're like he takes like Christopher Nolan levels of leaps in logic in that movie where like there are so many plot holes that if you really think about it, you're like, this movie makes no fucking sense and why these things. But that is not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to just enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
And in that sense, Us is a very, very fun horror thriller. And I am very curious to see what this next film holds. I am pretty fucking sure it's aliens.
I don't think it's aliens.
Okay, so if it's not aliens, what is it? There's this giant cloud that's...
It's a toxic, like...
Sucking...
We are destroying the
Mother
Nature. I'm taking it in that... Like, you know what I mean?
Or are we doing M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening?
Oh my God.
I can't...
Oh my God. No, let's not even talk about that because that was awful.
Mark Wahlberg talking to plants.
Oh, no, we're not going there. But I do feel like it could be like something like Mother Earth being like, yo, you fucked me up.
I don't know if we need another movie like that, personally.
Okay, you're right. But I don't want to say aliens. I'm just trying to bring up something else besides, I don't think it's aliens.
But wouldn't aliens just be cool? Because aren't aliens cool?
Well, I mean, aliens are very cool. Like, signs. Hello. Which, by the way...
It's also directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
That too, but also, I heard, or just like read recently about another theory that they were not aliens, they were demons, and that's why holy water defeated them. And that's why they were afraid of water.
I could get behind that. That's pretty cool.
Right?
Everyone says that, like, they're like, well, why would they come to a planet with water? Like, what if they were, you know, this race that could travel and, you know, they came to a planet that was made wholly of, like, entirely, basically, of water. Like, why would they do that? That's such a dumb thing. Well, what if they never knew what the fuck water was? What if they had never encountered water before? What if their planet doesn't have water? What if they had just come from another galaxy? They had never encountered... Why is that a thing? I would say a lot of planets in our solar system aren't necessarily comprised of fucking H2O. So...
Yes and no.
There's shit like that in the oxygen and shit like that, but, like, don't, like, obviously, you know, we're not going to do that, but, like, bodies of water...
Yeah.
That is not necessarily a common thing. So, you know, that's my thing. That, like, everyone's like, well, why would they go? Because maybe they didn't know what the fuck water was. If you go to another planet and you find out that something is maybe toxic to you, maybe it's something you had never encountered before.
So you're like, hey, never been here. Like,
yeah, I didn't know what this was. I didn't know it was going to hurt me. Yep. You know? Mm-hmm. And you could say that in a lot of space movies where humans go to other planets, they encounter stuff that they had never encountered before, and it fucking killed them. So, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck off. Science is amazing.
I love Signs.
Signs is great. Not you. Anybody who's ever talked shit about Signs.
Okay.
God damn it. Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix deserve Academy Awards for that movie. They're so good.
Abigail Breslin.
Oh, God.
So cute.
Dude, that whole cast is on point.
Oh, and Macaulay.
It's McCulkin.
McCulkin.
It's, God, it's the one,
Sorry, we've had a lot
to drink. Is it Kieran? It has to be Kieran.
Yeah,
the one who's in Succession now, right?
I haven't watched that, but yeah.
I think it's the one that's in Succession.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anywho, we got here because I want to say that Nope is not.
It's about a cloud.
I think it's like climate change. That's
God,
what I want to think.
I hope not.
No,
I really hope not, because
you know what? No, I'm selling him
want to know why?
No, he's more brilliant than that.
Here's the thing with climate change: we're fucked.
Yes,
and it doesn't matter at this point. We've done enough damage, and you know what? The human race, they had it right in the Matrix. The human race is a virus.
Oh my God.
And the Earth is heating up to kill us off. That is how you get rid of a virus. You get a fucking high temperature. So, that's all I have to say about that. And if you make another movie about how Mother Nature is pissed off that we fucked it up, I don't care anymore. There's nothing I can do about it. So don't rub it in my face. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Also, I have not seen the most recent Matrix movie. I just heard it was not very...
I had a great time seeing it for the first time, but Brian and I went downtown and we got hammered, and then we went downtown, saw the movie. And
where was my invite?
You were probably working, actually. It was like on a fucking Wednesday night.
I was not working on a Wednesday night. Clean invite. No,
it is a Wednesday night.
Yeah, I'm literally here with you on a Wednesday night.
Oops.
It's cool. It's cool.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, it was just like a bro date. You know, no girls were invited. It was just, you know.
But I'm one of
we
the
went
bros.
and saw the new Nick Cage movie a couple of weeks ago.
Which one?
The one where he plays Nick Cage.
No.
The one where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage. You haven't seen the trailer? God, get out from your rock. Get out from your rock.
I live
I can't.
under a rock. I'm sorry.
I cannot abide this. This is.
I live under a rock.
Anyways, that movie was phenomenal. So
we can talk about a movie that Jonathan has not seen. Just kidding.
Yeah, and it hit me.
The Woman.
Yeah.
It's called The Woman.
I know the picture. She looks just like, it's like her hair's and she's kind of got like blood and she's like giving this.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know it, and it's been out for a long time. And there was a time when I got very, very close to watching it.
Yeah,
I have not seen it.
Yeah.
I told someone recently, they were like recommending a movie to me, and I was like, I'm sorry, the Jony Horror Show is currently not taking applications for new movies, at least until next year, because I'm so.
I saw that script there.
Backed up. Oh yeah, don't worry about that. That's fine. We're gonna start working on that. Yeah. Sometime before I die, hopefully.
You got a lot of life to live. So
yeah, well, it's fingers crossed. But
we are going back to, oh my god.
We're just this is I mean, we haven't even had half as much alcohol as we did the last time.
No. Okay, so we're on Jordan Peele.
Yeah. What's your favorite alien movie of all time? Is it Signs? Or is
it Independence Day?
Independence Day. Independence Day is the Jurassic Park of alien movies, and that's not just because it has Jeff Goldblum in it.
I know. Fucking love him. Or what's the other one? The remake of has fucking Dakota Fanning as a daughter and
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the Worlds, but that was a remake.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's like a remake of a remake of
like a remake of a story
fucking
of a
book. Well, there's the infamous radio show too. I do believe it was Orson Welles where like they did like the radio broadcast, and they were doing da 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 da, and then like, oh my god, like this town is being destroyed by this thing, and da da da, and oh my god, it's aliens, and people like actually bought into it at the time as something that was legit happening.
Can you imagine?
I can imagine, except it's just nuclear warheads and Russia. Like, so. But yeah, that movie, any movie where I get to fucking see goddamn Tom Cruise sprint, I'm there for it. Yes. I am there for it. Yes. I remember 2005, like, seeing trailers for that movie, and I was living with my dad and just begging him, Dad, can we go see it? 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 And it was just the day, and he was like, all right, we're going. And it was one of those weird things, because this is my type A personality coming in, where like I had to go to like a football practice afterwards, and I hated football, and I didn't want to do the football thing. Yeah. And spoiler alert, eventually I did not do the football thing, but
no, he did not.
I remember my dad being like, all right, we're just going to go in the early afternoon and go see this movie. And then I had practice afterwards and being slightly, if not very disappointed that I couldn't see the movie like after practice or something where I could like legit sit just, and like, enjoy it and not have to worry about doing a thing afterwards. Yeah. But I had read like a kid's version of the book. Like when I mean that, it's not like a necessarily like a kid version, but like a young adult version where like it had like a picture on one thing and like the story, but kind of like simplified. Basically, I would say maybe for like a preteen version of the story War of the Worlds, and just being really like attached to that story because I thought it was really cool and dark, and it also took place in like the 40s or something like that, or even before. I think it was like 1800s or something like that when the original story takes place. It's like way back there.
I did not realize that.
Do you have your phone on you?
I do not. I'm sorry.
Shit, okay, hold on. We're gonna pull this up right now.
Pull it up.
Let's see. That way we can. I can feel some legitimacy here. But yeah, while I'm looking this up, why don't you tell me about your hot take on Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds?
I mean, obviously I loved it. It was one of those that was, what year was that?
2005.
Yeah, that was like one of the big movies, obviously. And what? Okay, I'm distracted by that. 1898. What?
Publication. I think obviously at the time it took place in present day.
1898.
So yeah, okay, so here it is. The narrative opens by stating, as humans on Earth busied themselves with their own endeavors during the 1890s, aliens on Mars began plotting an invasion of Earth because their own resources are dwindling.
But
so fucking cool. Now I get angry. I'm like, why wasn't the Steven Spielberg movie starring Tom Cruise placed in the 1890s? Because that makes it so much more like legit that like,
hello.
Yeah, God, that like the Martians would be attacking, because we had no way to know what was going on Mars back in the 1800s.
Don't even get me started on Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
Can we have a remake of that, or would it be horrible, right?
I don't know, because I think that movie is so
classic,
perfect as it is, because it's you know, a ripoff of, you know, those old like 1950s like sci-fi flicks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wrote I might have even talked about this on the podcast. I can't remember, but I wrote I rewatched Mars Attacks for the first time in like at least a decade.
Really?
Sometime last year. Like,
okay.
I watched it at this house, and like the year prior, I'd written Celeste a short story about. For Christmas, I wrote her like a short story about like a.
I saw it. It was so cute.
Yeah, like a alien abduction, because Celeste is afraid, like terrifyingly afraid of aliens. Like, she loves signs, and signs like terrifies her. She always thinks that like aliens are in the room, like watching us. Yeah. So I wrote an abduction story for her, and in the story, it's like I took all the worst possible things that you could do to a human being, and I put them in that story for this like abduction story. And like, this woman's head gets like ripped from her body, and she's still alive, and she has no head. I mean, she has no body, but her head is still like functioning, and she's like, all these terrible things happen to her. And I remember thinking, as I'm writing like the thing, oh yeah, like this head that has been decapitated but is still alive. God, what a fucking original idea, especially for an alien story. And then I was rewatching Mars Attacks, and I was like, that was definitely somewhere in the back of my mind. I was like, fuck! I tried so hard.
Babe, I didn't mean to do that.
And I was, told her, I was like, God, I thought I was so fucking original here. But, yeah, Mars Attacks is great.
So good.
War of the Worlds, a lot of people, like harp on the ending where, like, again, it is, like, that's, again, the other thing about, like, signs that, like, where people are like, oh, like, why would they, like, like, go to a planet, like, with water and stuff like that. Now, if you go back to War of the Worlds, in the original novel, and in the Spielberg movie and everything,
yeah,
the fucking aliens are killed by the common cold, which is genius.
Yeah.
It's fucking genius, because that is shit that no like apocalyptic scenario like in any movie like ever really takes account of. That if you think about the fucking Indians and the Pilgrims, like, you know what really destroyed the Pilgrims was our fucking germs.
No, what really destroyed the Indians?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Excuse me, the Indians was like that was like our germs. Obviously, there was all sorts of fucking slaughter and terrible things that happened, but they were introduced to bacteria and shit that they had not experienced before, and that fucking wiped them the fuck out. And I love that aspect of War of the Worlds, because these aliens come to a planet that they've never been to before, and they are wiped out by something that like we've developed an immunity to.
Yeah.
And no one thinks about that. They think that it has to be this grand thing where, like, again, something like Independence Day where you blow them the fuck up, which is great and is a beautiful spectacle. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the simplest thing ends up really, you know, fucking doing the most damage.
Yep.
How do you feel about, like, that as, like, a central theme in that movie, and how that movie wraps up in a very, what I would suggest is a very anticlimactic ending, which I'm sure is why it ruffled so many feathers.
Okay, he made me some very strong drinks, so...
Oh my god, it's already gone.
So we were talking about... You can edit this, right? We were talking about...
I'm not going to edit it.
Stop! Because you went from, like, Signs to then...
War of the Worlds. Independence Day. Mars
I'm
Attacks.
Like, which one are you talking about?
They're all connected.
They're all in the same... Yeah. Repeat the question?
How do you feel about the anticlimactic ending of War of the Worlds, where like the aliens just get killed by the common cold, versus something like Independence Day, where it's this giant spectacle of, like, you know, fighter jets fucking destroying alien spaceships?
I think they're both plausible. I actually like the fighter jets better, but
it's more cinematic.
But the common cold is more legit.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Yeah.
War of the Worlds. God, that was good. You know that's on Netflix now.
I would hope so.
Well, I mean, it's like one of those things that they just kind of like cycle through. But I saw it was on Netflix like a couple of days ago, and I was like, fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
I do like that movie. I like that movie a lot. Have you ever seen Fire in the Sky?
No.
You know what it's about?
No.
So it is based on a true story of I do believe it's a group of loggers, like like for lack of a better word, lumberjacks, that one of them supposedly gets abducted. And this is, again, based on a true story of a man that disappeared for X amount of days, and like all of the events leading up to it are like, they all took polygraph tests, all passed them and everything, and like they all their stories sync up. Where like, yeah, no, there was a bright light, and then so and so like disappeared, and then he came back some amount of time later. I don't remember if it was weeks or months, but he came back and he was like, yeah, this is what happened to me. And like the whole movie, the first, I would say 75-80% of the movie is everything that happens on Earth, and then the guy reappears and he tells them what happened, and it is a terrifying like last 20 minutes of the movie where you see everything that he recounts happened to him on the spaceship. It is a very, very good alien movie. And it's even more scary because you're like, people believe that this actually happened. So.
Yeah, what the hell?
Are they out there? Do you think they're out there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be? It's so...
They're literally looking at us like...
fucking
you're
big,
fucking
man.
up this planet, and also we're this many light years away. Like...
I love the theory, and this is like a Joe Rogan thing where it's like aliens that we think we see. This idea of like tall gray men is just us in the future come back, where we've done away with like things like physical touch and stuff like that because we can all communicate telepathically, because that's like something that Elon Musk is working on now, to be able to insert a thing that you can talk to somebody, and then we're so connected here that why would we have any physical contact? We can all communicate here, and then our brains get a little bit bigger, and then we shut down emotionally, and we get smarter, and we figure out a way to travel back in time, basically, and we go and look back on ourselves, and that's what we see are these floating things, is us like moving around in different dimensions, and like that actually makes more sense than like even aliens from another planet coming here.
How did we get here? I'm just kidding. No,
this is horrifying shit.
I'm like, no, we got here because of no. I don't want to imagine myself as an alien, but my grandkids will be.
Well, we already established that the Earth is dying, and so
we know
we're not going to make it that far as a species. So, how are your drinks?
He makes a really good drink, just so you guys know.
I am a bartender.
Yes, I used to bartend with him.
Taught me everything I know.
Shut up. Okay, I feel like we need to do close out.
Are we wrapping this up?
Are we?
I mean, where do you go from aliens? You go...
You tell me.
I don't even know. We've gone to space.
Yeah.
We made a jump. We made a serious jump.
A really jump.
From meta horror to fucking space, where no one can hear you scream. So. We should probably just wrap this shit up before we get any more preposterous. Goddamn. This is always fun. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Moving forward, as a horror fan, what would you like to see more of? Or what movie would you like? Like, what franchise would you like to see more of? Or, like, I know that, like, you right now, you're watching a lot more stuff that is not...
Like true crime.
Yeah, and is not necessarily maybe something that your average viewer would watch. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've been watching?
So I've been watching a lot of true crime, like documentaries where, they bring a camera in because they want to make themselves look more innocent, but they look more guilty. But what I really want is another movie to shock me as much as, and people are going to hate me on this, but Hereditary. I absolutely loved that movie. Went to the theater 4 or 5 times.
Watch Hereditary.
Took my cousin who's young enough to be minis
Mm-hmm.
to see it. And it's just, I have not been that impressed with the movie since then.
And you saw Midsommar?
I did. And I did love Midsommar. But
I mean, yeah, they are
they're different.
They're different movies with very, very similar themes, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But
so maybe I'm waiting for that director to do another one.
yeah, Ari Aster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what he's working on right now. Yeah, I'm trying to think like what my movie, like probably like my the movie that scared me the most in recent consciousness it was without a doubt The Conjuring 2.
Oh,
the way they did the nun in that the hallway sequence, and we might have talked about this before. I don't fucking remember, but just like how like when the daughter like walks into the hall and like then Lorraine, I believe it's Lorraine, walks in after her, and she's like, "Mom, who is that?" And then it just cuts, and she's just standing at the end of the hall, and it's just so creepy because, like, me as a kid, that is like my fear is just turning and just seeing something creepy down the way. I don't know what it is. Something that's just out of reach.
I get that, but how is it not scarier to you when the mom is in the library and the shadow is walking around the edge of each wall, and as soon as it gets to the picture that he painted, she's there and she runs through it? That was so terrifying.
That is a great
terrifying
suspense building moment. I think for me, like, really what it stems to is I had, like, as a kid,
the same experience.
We just had it wasn't necessarily a long hall, but my parents' bedroom was like right here and our bedroom was right here. So you could walk out of my bedroom and walk straight into my parents' room, but it's at the end of the hall. And the hall had like a bathroom, a bedroom, and then like down the way before you got to the living room as a kid.
You're like, I don't.
And this is my childhood home, and I haven't been there in like well over like 15, like actually like probably almost 20 years. It's the home I dream about, like on the regular. A lot of my nightmares all still go back to that home. So there's something about, and I remember always being a kid and being like woken up in the middle of the night and going to my parents' room and making that dart, that fucking 5-foot stretch from my room to my parents' room. I would never ever let myself look down the hall. Because I was always afraid that there was going to be something there. So that is a very like primal thing that like that scene of like seeing like, and it's just the way it's done with the daughter's like, who is that? And it's just someone just standing there. Not necessarily being like predatorial or anything like that. Just standing there and then moving away. There's something so like, because it's inviting you to go in, because you know, like, your curiosity as a human, you gotta go in, you gotta follow, and like that, to me, that bait and switch sort of thing is so good. That was like a moment in film recently. I haven't had anything like that since then that is like really tapped into that like primal like childlike fear, that I think every legit horror fan is chasing, You know, that's why we go to the movies to we really want to be scared again.
Yeah.
Did Hereditary do that for you? Was that something that...
It gave me, like, the creepy, like, was not expecting, plus also, like, the shocking moments. Like, you know, when, not to give away spoilers, but decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
And then to just go through the final scenes, because the mom was essentially going through grief
Mm-hmm.
in whatever ways. And then her crawling across the ceiling. I was not expecting that in a movie.
No.
It was all of this just like very like melodramatic pace of things, but there's little like tokens in scenes like, oh my god, that matches with that when you rewatch it. And then obviously the ending is very demonic in a sense, and just whoa, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that gave me the whole feeling of like, oh, made me uneasy in a sense that I enjoyed being uneasy, where there's other movies that I'm like, oh no, I'm actually like sick to my stomach from that. But this was like yeah.
What's a movie that made you sick to your stomach, uneasy? Can you think of any?
I can, and it's shoot, what's it called? I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Yeah, fucked up.
yeah.
Like that's the most uneasy that I've watched lately. And then The Woman, like I was talking with you and Celeste earlier, The Woman. Oh, I just...
Well, anything like you've seen Last House on the Left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never seen the original. I've seen the remake. I've
Mm-hmm.
not yet seen the original. It's been on the list for a while, but anything to do where someone is violated is
Yes.
really
Yeah.
a very, very hard watch.
Yeah.
And particularly in those movies, they're done in a very realistic way,
Mm-hmm.
where you're just like, this is like, there's like a heightened reality to a lot of movie stuff.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the David
Mm-hmm.
Fincher one?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a rape scene in there, and
Mm-hmm.
it is rough, but there is a heightened sense of reality to it almost.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Because that movie is very cinematic and very like just very well put together, that it's like it's a pristine work of art. So when you know you're watching it, like this is a David Finch movie, it's a gorgeous movie to watch, and I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
With some of these lower budget horror movies, there's a grit and a realism to it that you're like, this person
tough.
was looks like they were actually taking advantage of it, and it is hard to watch.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the comeuppance of the villains is phenomenal. I would say the I Spit on Your Grave stuff is even the stuff that the villains go through. You're like, fuck, man, that is. It's justified, but it is. It's hard to watch because it is so, the shit that they rightfully go through is fucking grueling. But and that is you got to be in the right state of mind to dive into that. And sometimes you don't even know what you're getting
and you're
into,
just like,
and you're like,
oh shit,
oh no,
yeah,
I was not prepared for this.
Yeah.
I remember when Celeste told me to watch I Spit on Your Grave. I think it was the remake that I watched, and I was just not
You're like,
prepared.
no, I was not ready for that.
When I watched the Last House on the Left, like, my girlfriend at the time like prepared me. She was like, it's messed up.
Yeah.
Like, you'll like it. It's a cool movie, but it's messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, those types of films. Yeah, that's like real life horror. That's where the
Exactly.
outskirts of the
It's
genre,
oh my God.
you
Yeah.
know? You
Yeah.
have like fucking gremlins down here.
Gremlins! Oh my God. That terrified me as a kid. I was like, oh my God, I can't eat candy. Or I can't let my cute cat eat candy.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Siri wanted to chime in,
Siri,
apparently.
shut up.
Yeah, my story with Gremlins as a kid, I didn't see Gremlins until I was an adult, but we used to have we had old VHS tapes where my parents would record like what was on TV
Yeah.
and like watch the movie. And I think the movie was Top Gun. So it was Top Gun on TV, and it had all the, you know, the good stuff taken out. It had all the swear words taken out. It had that glorious sex scene taken out, and but it had commercials in it. And one of those commercials was for Gremlins, and me being a very, very sheltered little boy just saw the little monsters running around in the dark, basically. And I remember it wasn't like a full-blown like nightmare scenario for me, but I remember being very like, I would go into the other room when that commercial came
And be
on.
like, no.
I didn't like it at all, because again, I was just like so crazy sheltered that like anything remotely dark, like anything remotely scary, like was nightmare fuel to poor baby Johnny.
Yes. And the freaking gremlins like terrified me because you have little, oh God, Gizmo? Gizmo, he's so cute. And then like they get into some candy and then they go into these like cocoons. And they're like coming out all like slobbery and gross, and they're just like, I was terrified as a kid.
Yeah, they're gross little dinosaurs and little demon
babies.
children.
Yeah. Okay, how are we?
I don't know. This is fun though, because we
went everywhere.
You know,
We went
all over
frickin'
the
everywhere,
fucking
yeah.
thing. Well, I appreciate you coming on for a second time.
I am very honored to have me again.
And there will be a third time.
Of course, and a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah,
Hope
absolutely.
so.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, I am a fucking shy individual, and I get too scared to ask anybody but my friends to come on this podcast.
But he's also more popular than me.
Just by like a very, very small margin. It's my gay fanboys that really seal the deal for me. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you. This has been the Jony Horror Podcast, and you know, we'll see you guys on the flip side. Thanks again, Abby, for being here, and
of course, thank you.
we'll do it again very, very soon.
Very, very soon.
Hasta la pasta, you rastas. Good night.
Bonsoir.